It's been called the missile with a man in it, the flying coffin, the aluminum death tube, and the Widowmaker. Will we survive our flights with this barely winged bird? Only one way to find out. It's a very pretty box with an airplane inside. 9 major pieces with all the servos and control rods pre-installed. The flat bottom wing is tiny, but includes flaps and ailerons ready to go. The wing tanks are optional and simple to install. Easy access battery compartment has room for a 4000 6S battery pack, and it also contains the 80 amp speed controller. Reed tracks fit snugly into the fuselage, but there are no gear door covers. The nose cone is held on with magnets and makes transporting the long fuselage easier. Assembly starts with gluing the tail cone onto the rear fuselage with epoxy. The kit comes with glue, but I prefer to use my own 30-minute epoxy. Some low-tack tape keeps the parts together while the glue dries. Next, slide the elevator into the top of the rudder and screw into place. The servo wires are labeled to aid in identification. After the servo leads are plugged into their respective extensions, glue the whole tail assembly into place with more epoxy. Again, more low-stick tape is used to hold things together. Now the carbon wing spar rods are inserted. Carefully insert the wings, then screw them into place. No glue is used in these steps. The wingtip tanks are also screwed on. Install the receiver of your choice, and that's it. Very quick to build. Oh yeah, nose cone. Don't forget the nose cone. Look, Ma, a Starfighter in just under 1 hour. Now it's time to see how it'll fly. For flight testing, I use a 6S 3000 mAh battery pack. I also used the recommended control throws, except on the ailerons, which were toned down to only 5mm travel up and down. And here goes nothing. Acceleration is good, and a touch of flaps help it get up in the air with only a moderate amount of rollout. The 104 is very stable in pitch, but relatively sensitive in roll. The first few flights should be done with about 30% exponential, just to be on the safe side. Inverted flight can be done, but the flat bottom wing takes some of the fun out of it. That said, it can perform the obligatory loops and rolls pretty well. Just don't back off on the throttle too much in turns. Flying in breezy weather will cause a bit of wing-walking Dutch roll. I've considered adding a gyro to settle it down some, but it is purely aesthetic and not an issue with flight stability. I notice no tip stalling tendency at low speeds. Like the real F-104, the Freewing model is not a yank and bank type model. With a 3000 mAh battery pack, I found it good for about 4 minutes of flying. However, low passes are a thing of beauty. Another characteristic is that the model will pitch down a bit when lowering the flaps. Landing is straightforward, just keep some power on until just before touchdown. As you can see, you can really get it to do a nice flare before touchdown. So we were curious just how much difference flying it without the tip tanks would be. So we pulled them off. And we used a big 5 GPS meter to measure the maximum speeds. The GPS meter is small enough to fit inside the battery compartment with no problems. Without the tanks, roll is a bit more sensitive and the model is noticeably more difficult to see. I dared not take my eyes off it for even a moment. In our first run, we measured 87 miles per hour as the max speed. Gotta love those high alpha landings. With the tanks back on, it was time to see how much slower it would be. Ah yes, I can see it again. So, what did the GPS meter say this time?
80 miles an hour. On a clear day, last flight was 87, so there is a little bit of a speed increase without the winglets. According to this, about 7 miles per hour.
A noticeable difference.
So now I had a chance to fly it several times. I've really gotten to get a good feel for how it flies, and I've really had a good time with it. Flying the F-104 is kind of like the first date with a beautiful lady. It usually doesn't quite go how you expect, but after you're done, you're very happy it happened. The speeds are pretty good, even at partial throttle, and the 6S power, while somewhat unusual for a smaller 70mm fan, actually just works really good in this model. In the end, it's a fairly easy plane to fly for experienced pilots, but just be sure to keep it close and have an up-to-date eyegrass prescription.
I lost it.